I'm not hearing any audio. I've heard a little noise, but people's squares keep lighting up as if they are speaking. Are people speaking?
I can hear you, Mr. Brown.
But
Me too.
I just wondered if y'all can, if I couldn't hear anybody else, but it looked like people were speaking.
Richard.
Mr. Brown, how are you?
Hey there, sounds like Mr. Malagon. I am fine. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Can't complain.
I
Can't complain.
had a had a good night of partying and relaxing yesterday and last night.
That makes one of us. Although some might say my whole life is a party. Speaking of parties, Mr. Dar is here. That's when a party happens. I learned that in Miami. This guy gets it.
Yeah, I went to two festivals yesterday and then checked out our new land-based casino. Got to say, I liked it better when it was a boat.
Did you win?
I didn't play, but my wife did, and our out-of-town guest from Arkansas did, and I think they both won.
There you go. So when your wife wins, you win. Assuming that Louisiana is a community property state.
That's we sure are. I'm glad you reminded me. Thank you.
I live to serve, sir. I live to serve.
One of the some other time I got to tell you the story about the first time she did win big at the casino. That was an interesting night. I'm not going to get into it here.
I look forward to hearing that. I want some tips. I've never won big. I've won moderately. Those $10 tables add up. I'm able to pay for a couple of drinks and maybe dinner sometime, but that's about it.
That's it. Well, at the casinos here, they give you the drinks free if you're playing. At least I think the treasure chest does. Actually, I'm not sure.
Not as much anymore, actually. When we were at Vegas for Freedom Fest, they come around a lot less often now. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe Biden. But still, it's still a good time. It's fine.
The new land-based casino has done away with its big buffet lunch and dinner, which to me that's sometimes one of the best parts of going to a casino.
I agree. That's criminal.
They do have 4 separate restaurants ranging from an upscale steakhouse to kind of a snack bar.
No, that is criminal. I agree with you. The buffet, I don't eat very often, but that's it's a good part. It's a good perk.
Yeah, and the king crab legs. My gosh, what's a casino without that?
Right? There you go. You understand casinos, sir. I applaud you.
Right. If I could be made co-host, please.
Keep talking, Angela, so your box stays lit so I can find you easy.
Right here, right here.
Okay, one second. I see, make co-host. I was trying to find you, and everyone kept trying to join, and I kept losing you.
I've got to put my awards behind me, like Missy Miscavige. She's doing it right. I just don't have a place to put them. There's so many of them. That's the problem.
It's not my word. Not my word. I put my flowers behind me.
That's right. You live vicariously through others, right? And they're your son's awards.
No, it's my brother-in-law's award who passed away. He was big in motocross.
Oh, now don't you feel like an asshole?
He is an asshole.
I never, first of all, I never feel like an asshole, but that doesn't mean that I'm not one. Oh, look, I like making Mr. Dar laugh. That's always great.
Homeostasis.
He laughed because he agrees, but he doesn't want to say. I love it.
Paul's the best.
That's half the battle with libertarians, is it not?
Paul, is that background?
No,
Is your background an actual like physical background, or is that pictures behind you?
Yeah. Do you really think he
Oh.
painted his wall to
I
have
don't
the
know, it
Texas
looks-
flag with the old Libertarian Party logo? Was
When
that
I
really?
have
Was
no,
that really?
when
I'm
I
sorry, was that in question here?
when I have a virtual background, I look like weird when I move in certain directions. He doesn't. He looks like real.
All right, so Nana's here. He laughed. He laughed heartily
All
at
right.
that one. That's
I just
good.
got my
So
hair.
good. Well,
I
I
just
didn't
got-
know what he was talking about, and then Paul talked, and it was like so clearly not real.
I just got my hair highlighted. Maybe I'm a little blonde, extra blonde today.
Well, no, so everyone understands, like, this is why I fear driving with her when she's driving, because she can't see. The fact that she couldn't tell that Mr. Dar's background was very clearly not
How
like a
old-
normal
I'm
background.
wearing
How old is
glasses.
your glasses
Asian Dream.
prescription?
5 years old.
Yeah, well, that might do it. Might
Is
be
that
the
is that
reason.
bad?
That's kind of
Win,
a long time.
win. Ich heiße, ich heiße Stiefventilator. Was?
I agree.
Guten Abend.
Whatever the German said.
What a Nikayla thing to say. Oh my goodness.
What's on his face?
What are you insinuating, Mr. Malagon?
I
German
insinuate
heritage is not
nothing.
good enough for you?
To be fair, Mr. Nikayla, nothing is good enough for me, as Miss Hayes has found out firsthand. But we
I
do
don't
need to
know.
update Mr. Dar's logo. That's the old one. We gotta do the torch. We gotta revamp that. It's the 21st century now, Mr. Dar. No shade
Hello,
being thrown,
guys.
of course. So we gotta up it.
Oh,
Stiff
Goofball.
ventilator, you need to turn on your camera so we can see who you are and change your name.
Fair.
Otherwise, I gotta.
Mr. Ventilator appears to be speaking German, so I don't know that he ever will understand that.
Should I? All right, I'll remove.
Google Translate.
I could have asked him.
Remove.
I'm not
Können Sie
joking.
Deutsch?
Ja, ein bisschen.
Ooh.
Ambition. Nor ambition.
Nur ein bisschen.
9.
Okay,
Also 10.
Yeah, guys,
we need to get started soon. So let's wind it down, please. Go ahead and mute yourself, guys. Thank you. I am doing an informal sort of kind of roll call right now.
I've already done one, Madam Chair, and everyone is here except for Mr. Sean.
Mr. Sean, okay. Region 1, do you mind reaching out to your alternate on our behalf just to see if he's going to show up?
Will do.
Thank you very much. All All right, on that note, we are gonna go ahead and call to order at 5:06 PM Eastern Time. Mute everyone. The first thing we're gonna do is have public comment.
Madam Chair, can we dispense with the attendance roll call by just stating that everyone is present except for Mr. Sean?
Is there any objection? Hearing none. So moved and adopted. Everyone is present except Mr. Shahan. All right, so if you'd like to give public comment, please go to the bottom, click reactions, raise hand, or just click raise hand. A few hands up.
Whole year saw a huge protest.
And please remember to keep yourselves muted. All right, we'll start with Mr. Nathan Madden from Arizona. You have 2 minutes. Mr. Watkins, if you could help me keep time.
Yes. Hello, Madam Chair. Hello, members of the LNC. I'm just here basically because I've had an outstanding issue that I've brought forward to my region and a couple of the alternates that hasn't been resolved yet. The elected officials page on the lp.org has not been updated. I was previously on there, but was removed at some point, and it hasn't been resolved yet. So just bringing that to the attention of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to jump to non-LNC members first, and we'll go to Mr. Chuck Moulton.
Hello. So very briefly, 2 things. First of all, transparency is very important to the party. And I think it's important that the members be able to see what's going on the public list, and also be able to see live stream meetings. So I would encourage everyone to vote against those things. Secondly, on the matter of Ms. Harlos, I served on the Judicial Committee and wrote the opinion for the Judicial Committee last time the LNC tried to remove her. I do think the LNC has broad discretion on what cause is, but doing her job and supporting the presidential candidate is in no way cause to remove her. The secretary reports to the delegates and does not need to do anything the chair says. Or does not need to do everything the chair says. So I would encourage you not to remove Ms. Harlos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moulton. Up next, we have Jeremiah Harding.
All right. So I've been watching this kind of thing unfold for a significant period of time, and I think that it's become manifestly obvious that the party itself has a lot of systemic issues with lack of willingness to accept criticism, lack of willingness to understand where people are coming from before shutting them down. And a variety of things have become clear, especially since Karen has been unjustly attacked by a variety of people. And I think those things are very clear at this point when she is basically being ousted for asking bylaws to be followed, holding people publicly accountable on a public business list, and a variety of other things that I could mention. But the most notable thing
Do
that
you
I think...
want your...
Oh,
yeah, you're taking.
Excuse me, guys, make sure you mute yourselves. Go ahead.
But the most notable thing that I could say is that I admire how she's gone against the grain in a variety of ways. I've been watching the business list and taking notes, and transparency is indeed important, especially if there's going to be a party of principle that is allegedly a third option, basically being completely sold out to Trump or RFK Jr. or whoever else can give us that, holy relevance that we so seek. If relevance in a third option is only possible in the prior 2, it's no relevance at all. There is nothing here for any libertarians as long as people are ousted for having that principle that this party claims to stand by. This is a shameful display. I see whatever time I have left.
Thank you. Can you please tell us what state you are from?
I am from Spokane, Washington. It's awesome up here.
Thank you. Up next, we have Jeremy Hurdle. Please share what state you're from. Do we still have you? You might be muted. Okay. We're gonna jump to Ms. Mimi Robeson from California.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to actually kind of mimic what Mr. Moulton said. I think that transparency is very important for our party and for the membership. So I do hope that this committee votes down these amendments or these proposals to have lack of transparency. And then second, as far as Ms. Harlos, I was adamantly opposed to her being removed the first time. I'm just as adamantly opposed to her being removed this time. Nobody should be removed for doing their job, even if they can be outside of things, you know, bothersome to people. They shouldn't be removed if they're doing their jobs properly. And Ms. Harlos does an amazing job as secretary. She is constantly working, and she's working for the party, and she's right now working for the transparency to the membership of what's going on. So I strongly hope that this committee does not go down this path. Thank you. I cede my time.
Thank you. Up next, I believe we've got Mr. Ford, Ms. Yanuskavich, Mr. Dar, then the secretary, then Mr. Nana. Mr. Ford, go ahead.
I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for their generosity. We've raised through Libertarian Mutual Aid. We are closing in on $5,000 in total contributions of cash and materials. The campaign to raise money to support Libertarian Party of Tennessee and now the Libertarian Party of North Carolina will continue probably for a few months. You know, well past when the media has decided they're bored with the headlines, and well past when the government decided they wanted to absolve themselves of their abject failures in the response this go around, has, well, just about every go around, will be there and will continue to support them. The effort to rebuild in these areas is going to take years, not days, not weeks, and certainly not the media timeline. So I ask everyone if they, you know, we understand that people are under a lot of stress financially everywhere. So small contributions go a long way if they're from a lot of people. So we'd ask you to consider libertarianmutualaid.org, and we're now going to send another couple $1,000s out to Tennessee and North Carolina tonight is when they give us our instructions, and we'll continue the work. So thank you all for your generosity. I cede my time.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ms. Yanuskavich.
Thank you. Financial matters were not noticed for this meeting. Accordingly, I am reading an update from our interim executive director, Hannah Kennedy, regarding fundraising efforts by staff. We have more or less confirmed how much data that was lost in the Razors migration. We pulled FEC data, donor data from the same time period and compared it to our contacts. We took just the over $1,000 donors for the last 4 years. We had 575. FEC had a 1,135. We thought it was around 50 to 60%, and that seems to check out. I'm going to look into how to append FEC data and at least get a price tag on recovering lost contacts. Revenue increasing projects include getting Aristotle data into Zoho. I'm moving that project to the Zoho contractor since I just took it away from our 4th volunteer. We are implementing iWave wealth screening of our 2,500 allotted contacts and building donor profiles. We are implementing project-based fundraising off the backs of committee activity. We are also pulling regional specific lists and asking regional reps to make fundraising calls in their region. We're refocusing our freedom callers with project-based call lists, as well as put them on a schedule for current and expiring lists. Longer-term fundraising projects include the new Archimedes project and an expansion of the Unified Membership Program. Hannah emphasized that she needs everyone to make donor calls, reach out to Angela and Hannah, both to get a list, and a gold star goes to Pat Ford, who already has his list.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yanuskavich.
We have
Up
50
next-
seconds left.
Okay, up next we have our secretary.
I thought Mr. Dar was before me.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Dar, and then we'll move to extend time. Thank you. I'm going to move to extend time by 8 minutes to accommodate the 4 hands that are up right now. Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none. Okay. Hearing none, that passes, and up
Let me
next.
ask you, Madam Chair, have you been removing somebody? He keeps coming back in. Okay,
Yep.
so that person whose name we both see, leave that alone. Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Okay, I'm not going to say too much yet.
Angela.
If you wanted to take care of that, I'll wait. All right, I'm not going to say too much that I'm not going to be able to say during the LNC meeting, but I'd like to draw attention to everyone that I got a very public thank you for doing what I did by our candidates who feel supported, not by the entire LNC, but by what I did. I do believe this is a witch hunt, and I am grateful for the support that I have, and I hope the LNC does the right thing. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just giving notice, though I will have some motions at the beginning. A lot of people know that I am extraordinarily sick right now. I have a fever and I can barely talk, but I am sure that will not make a difference. The lynching will go on.
Sorry, up next, I believe we have Mr. Dustin Nana.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We heard some of the stuff that was being worked on by staff earlier. I just wanted to get in line to say, I don't know if any of them are on this call, but thank you to staff as always. They don't get shouted out as frequently as they should, so we appreciate all your hard work. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Nana. Up next, we have Abra Green.
Hi, it's actually Austin and Abra. I'm with her. Hey, Angela. Aloha, everybody. I just wanted to say just one thing about this, because my board has dealt with removals and difficulties and drama and all of that. I like Karen Ann a lot. I think she's awesome. I love her firecracker whole thing. I like her a lot. That said, my opinion on this is that it has to be a business decision. This can't just be about her opinions or about how she's feeling about the board or being angry about it. You know, if her points are meritorious, or even if there's some disagreement on that, if it's something relatively neutral and it's really about her dissent, I would just say, please be careful, because we don't want to lynch anybody for anything that isn't a cold hard business decision. But if there's good reason for that, I don't know all the facts, so my mind is open. I just want to make sure that we really keep it black and white and keep the emotionalism out of it. That said, I will direct a piece of criticism to the other side, warning to my side. Criticism to the other, I would say, is we need to save our damn ammo for the state. The libertarians who have their guns fixated on other libertarians are idiots. I yield.
Thank you very much. Up next we have Mr. Adrian Malagon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the last speaker for their comments. At the risk of giving Mr. Ford a big head here, Rhode Island is barely a state. I will say I thank him a lot for his mutual aid efforts. I think that there a lot of people in California are very enthusiastic and have seen his efforts, and I would just like to commend him on everything that he does. I would encourage everyone to donate to Mr. Ford's cause. He does a lot of good work, and this is exactly what we preach, right? Mutual aid, helping each other in time of need without state interference. And I really do thank Mr. Ford for all of his hard work and everything that he's done and the promotion that he does. And I really encourage everyone to donate to Mr. Ford's cause. He does amazing work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malagon. Okay, we're going to our first agenda item and need to put the agenda up.
I hold on one second. Well, the first agenda item, this is just going to be really difficult for me to do right now.
I can do the screen share.
If you would, that would be appreciated because I do have a motion to make.
Yep, no problem. All right, here is our agenda.
I could also hold on, let me stick in chat the link to the live notes. What happened to chat? You know, Zoom with multiple screens is just terrible. Live chat is tinyurl.com/LNC live notes, and anyone can follow along with what I'm typing.
Okay, we're gonna pass this to Mr. McGee.
Well, I said I had a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Okay, I'm allowed to give a few prefatory so it's to the extent it
I have
doesn't.
a quick point of order, Madam Chair. Is this this is a special meeting? Is this allowed? We have an agenda set.
Is it a privileged motion?
Yeah, it's the type of motion that's allowed at a special meeting, which of course will be for you to decide. You'd have to hear it first, but it's not new business or anything like that.
Okay.
And I was going to say, I'm going to give some prefatory notes and then see if it's seconded and if it's not. The prefatory notes are, an hour ago, we received a 31-page report. I think I'm allowed to say the number of pages. There is no way that that can be reviewed in an hour. So with that said, and if I get a second, I'll then debate. I move that we have discussion, at least initial discussion this evening on the report and finish discussing and then voting on the report at next Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern to give time for me to properly digest and have responses.
I'll second that.
Mr. Malagon, see your hands up.
I get to speak to my motion.
Thank
now
you,
that I have a
Madam.
second.
Well, just
did you
really
have
quickly before.
Mr. Malagon, were you objecting, or did you have a point of?
I do have an objection. I do have an objection as far as the time frame. This was sent at 11:41 Pacific time. That was not an hour ago. That was at least just over 2 hours ago, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
I apologize.
So I just want to make it very clear that it was 11:41 Pacific time that was sent out.
Okay.
Okay, a few hours ago of a very detailed report. I
And
will.
I'll just add really quickly that in executive session, the plan is to read the report in full, as the LNC was fully aware. In the event that members were not able to read the report in full, we would read it in full and discuss it in full. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think I
Okay,
get to
well-
speak to my.
Go ahead, Ms.
Okay.
Harless.
Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to duplicate a template first. Yes, I apologize to Mr. Malagon if I had the time wrong. For me, it was an hour because there was a judicial committee hearing. That's not Mr. Malagon's fault, but there were a lot of LNC members at a judicial committee hearing. Also, I can barely think about what I did 5 minutes ago. I cannot digest and adequately, if everyone wants to be fair, and look for contrary evidence, because from the bit I was able to skim, there was things that were incorrect in the state that I'm in. So I think the LNC keeps saying how it wishes to be fair. To have a report, 3 hours or whatever it is, that is so long and so serious prior to a meeting, when the subject of said report is to the point where I am concerned if I'm going to need to be hospitalized. Because I've had walking pneumonia before. It's not an unreasonable request to give us a week to digest it. I understand the concern perhaps might be that someone is going to leak the report. No one's been leaky this term. I'm certainly not going to. Anything I want in public, I'll make an appropriate motion and win or lose it. But it is certainly not anyone's fault that I have a severe case of the flu. But it is, in fact, the reality, and I think it's fair to everyone to have enough time to be able to read and digest. And I'm not claiming not start talking about it tonight. We can start to the best of our ability, but to give everyone time to digest the information and to be able to vote on it next week.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Malagon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like everyone to know that the secretary did a over 2 hour live stream yesterday, which she seemed absolutely fine. And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I don't mean to air this publicly, but I will just point out that Madam Chair herself has run meetings shortly after having a bleeding ulcer and 5 days after childbirth, if memory serves. Not to air your medical issues publicly, but I just want to point out that I don't understand how the secretary's point has any bearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nikela?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm fine with discussing it tonight and moving any type of vote down the road if that's more prudent. I think in either case, the report stands on its own merit, and whether or not we move on it today or next week, I don't think it'll make much of a difference. So I'll support it if that's the case. If not, then we move forward tonight.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
I was quite obviously not fine in my stream last night. Anyone can watch it. And immediately afterwards, in fact, I was going to I could stick a link. Wayne was so concerned that after that stream that I overextended myself, that I was shivering, and he thought he was going to have to take me last night to the hospital. I was not fine. Some people might be of stronger constitution than me and be able to have a baby. I applaud that and have a meeting. But they also weren't asked to deal with such a serious matter at that time. If we are going to have a fair discussion, I would hope you would want the subject of that discussion, considering that I was never interviewed on some of the things that are alleged in that report. So it was things I was interviewed on. I'm not in my right mind, but at least I'm aware of. but the new stuff completely unaware of. And if we're talking about fairness, which is going to probably be a continuing issue, and I don't think proper notice was given, I could drop out of this meeting right now and break notice, and anything that was voted on, I believe very arguably would be invalid because the notice just said to hear it, not to vote on it. But I am choosing not to be the kind of person who just drops out of the meeting to break full attendance. But if I do, then everything is subject because I counted on this body, though I might have to just drop out if things continue the way they're going, not with you guys, but with my own health. So that's my second time speaking, so that will be the last time I'm speaking on it. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It would not change the date if they were adopted of the alleged trial because it was already for a weekend after. If I am correct in reading the end of it, it wouldn't change anything about the resolutions. In fact, it would disadvantage me because it would give me less time to prepare. So there's no ultimate difference other than having somebody who is more capable of being able to speak. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Malagon and then Mr. Nana.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would very much encourage members of not just the LNC, but anyone on this call to go back and watch the live stream as the Secretary recommended so you can see the parallels between her dynamic yesterday afternoon and today, less than 24 hours. Wildly different. And we're getting into dangerous territory here as far as things that haven't happened yet. We're getting into what would be considered, I would consider trial territory. We haven't even gotten there yet. And I would ask a seated member of the LNC to call the question.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Nana.
I might call the question, but I have a parliamentary inquiry first. I'm a bit confused on what the substance of the secretary's motion is. I guess I've just never encountered this situation. What is trying to be done here?
Madam Secretary, can you restate your motion, please?
My motion was that we could hear and begin discussing to the extent that I am able to, because I may lose my voice, which has gotten worse since yesterday. That's the way flus go. So my motion was that we would start to at least hear it this evening and then have another special LNC meeting specifically just for the purpose with proper notice so that there's no question about notice because there is right now, to hear further because people will have had time to consider and to vote.
Okay, Mr. Nana, does that answer your question?
Maybe. I mean, I just don't know.
So
how this is. I mean, I guess I'm going to ask you for a ruling because I don't understand what we're doing or if this is in order or how this is going to work. Because from what I understand, there may be no action taken today. We don't know yet. Are we forbidding a possible future action until this?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have answered over you, but let me just let you know my intent, Madam Chair.
Sure.
It is forbidding any vote on this report this evening, but it's not forbidding any future vote at all. In fact, it's intended that next Sunday there would be a vote.
Unless Mr. Watkins has a problem with it, well, now I see Mr. Dazzing's hand too, then I would call the question.
Okay.
Mr. Malagon already called the question.
No, he's an alternate. He asked if someone would call the question.
Apologies.
Okay, the question's been called. Mr. Dassing, if you want to object, go ahead. Oh, nope, I see a hand down. Okay. Any objection to calling the question? Okay, so we're gonna go to a vote. Let me read this and explain my understanding of it so that we all know what we're voting on and what we're on the same page. Our secretary, Ms. Harless, moved to hear the first agenda item, begin discussion of it, and then not vote on it. So let me type this up properly. Move to hear and begin discussing the first agenda item and continue discussion in a later LNC meeting. Where a vote could happen if the LNC chose to vote on this agenda item. But the LNC shall not vote on the recommendations of the IC report tonight. Madam Secretary, did I do that justice?
Yeah, I mean, we all word it a little awkwardly, but yes, you
Yeah,
absolutely did.
A little awkward. Okay, I'm just gonna drop this in the chat, which much to everyone's dissatisfaction, I have not been watching, and I will continue to not watch it. But there it is. So that's what we're voting on. So we can talk about things in the report tonight, but we wouldn't be voting on any recommendations. Okay, so now we're gonna go to a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, hold on, I was just duplicating a template. Mr. Bost,
Yes.
Mr. Dar, Mr. Dassing,
No.
Mr. Ford,
Forgive me, I'm reading in the chat, so I'm just absorbing this all, so I'm going to temporarily pass.
okay, Mr. Garcia,
No.
Mr. Heyman.
No.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hayes.
No.
I'm somehow off kilter here. Mr. McGee,
Nay.
Mr. Nana,
Pass.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Benson,
No.
Miss Watkins. Pardon me, Mr. Watkins,
No.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
No.
Mr. Ford passed,
I'm voting no.
Mr. Nana,
What is the vote total, please, Madam Secretary?
it's 6 yes, 9 no.
My vote will not be needed. I'll abstain.
Okay, that does not pass. Well, Madam Chair would ultimately decide that.
I am not voting and the motion does not pass. All right. We are going to jump back to Mr. McGee. Moment. Here's where we're at. Notice to hear investigatory committee report with recommendation of charges. McGee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I move this motion, I would like to report that the IC committee met earlier today to adopt the IC report, and that there were some concerns that have been raised. And so if without objection, I would like to allow the chair of the IC committee, Mr. Malagon, address those briefly.
Is that all right, Madam Chair?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. McGee. So really quickly, this morning, we did have an open session vote on adopting specifications and charges, resolutions, the report as a whole. I would just like to clear some things up for people that are unaware of how our bylaws work or certain aspects. Also, I was only 1 cup of coffee in that morning and I had not had anything to drink. That does affect me when I don't have anything to drink. So I will just state really quickly that discussion already happened in executive session through various meetings. I believe there were 8 total for the investigatory committee, and all discussion had already taken place in executive session, which is why there was no discussion for any of the motions. And second, I did read off the vote totals after every charge and specification, also the resolution and the report adoption. So while I did not vote formally, that was just a lapse of me only being on my first cup of coffee. I did vote aye for everything, all charges, all specifications, the adoptions of the resolutions, and the report adoption. Just want to make that clear for everybody that was unaware. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to raise a point of order.
Please go ahead.
Okay, my point of order is that our policy manual requires the steps in a fair disciplinary process, and something I said before was either understood or misquoted in the report. Misquoted's not the right word. I'm sorry, I'm going to be using some wrong words. This has not been. Some of the persons pointed to this committee have already had a history of being personally abusive, and there are certain requirements for members of confidential investigation by committee. I wouldn't mind detailing out all of those issues if the chair wishes, but I believe the only 2 people who meet those qualifications are Mr. Nikela and Mr. Nana. And I believe that my rights already to a fair disciplinary process, which was voided already once at a convention, have been violated.
Your point is not well taken. Impartiality is up to the majority, and the majority of the LNC has already voted on the makeup and all the members of the investigative committee. And this was raised at the LNC meeting in Miami already, and we already addressed it there as well. But thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I will not be appealing. However, I am raising another point of order, which I'm sure will be not well taken, but I am preserving the record. Even prior to that time, rights were violated, and that the way this motion to even appoint the investigatory committee was done, and the reason Roberts recommends it being done and the way it does is to avoid potential libel, and it did not. It's supposed to be discussed and fleshed out when there are no non-members present, non-members meaning non-members of the assembly considering it. There were multiple non-members present, and this was made public, and I've already suffered personal, professional harm due to that. And so this was at an official meeting. People say all kinds of stuff about people at non-official meetings, but this was flawed from the very beginning, and I believe it needs to start over.
Your point of order is not well taken. Our bylaws specify that all votes have to be taken in public. We can't do them in an executive session. And that includes the name of the motion we're making. It's got to be stated in public.
And I am going to appeal from that ruling because that is not correct.
It's bylaws 7.15.
I'm aware of the bylaws. If anyone is interested and hearing what the argument is against that, because I agree partially with Madam
Your
Chair.
your appeal needs a second.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was
so-
asking for a second, just so I can explain.
I'll second.
Thank you. We oftentimes discuss sensitive matters in executive session. And when we come out, we make a somewhat vague motion, such as approve the contract of, if there was like 5 applicants and they haven't been notified, of such and such applicant of their hiring under the terms discussed in executive session. That has been done for decades on the LNC. That is the way this motion should have been handled. No one should have been named. No posts about it should have been made on the public list, as had been done. This is supposed to be done with the utmost of discretion. So while I agree the ultimate motion, which everyone on the assembly would have been aware of, would have had to have been done public, the details until the time after the investigatory committee should have been in confidence, and my rights were violated.
Mr. Watkins,
I'm calling the question.
thank you. Any objection to calling the question? Okay. We're going to vote on the ruling of the chair. So I've ruled her point of order as not well taken. Shall the ruling of the chair be upheld? That's, do you want to uphold my reading? We're going to do a voice vote. All in favor of upholding my ruling? Say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed?
Nay.
Any other opposed? Okay. All right, hearing none, my ruling is upheld. We're going to move along. Back to Mr. McGee.
Thank you. I think without further ado, I'm going to move that we hear investigatory committee report with recommendations of charges.
May I ask that our attorney is in until he can no longer be in?
I would object to that. I believe I would object to that because I believe that I am still an LNC member, and the LNC attorney represents the entire LNC and has placed himself in an adversarial relationship to a member of the
Point of
LNC.
order, Madam Chair. Mr. Watkins actually had his hand up before the secretary started speaking.
It's a point of order. I said it as objection.
Okay, go ahead, and then we'll jump to Mr. Watkins.
Thank you. I believe at this point, the only responsible move of the LNC is to appoint a separate counsel for myself or for the rest of the LNC, that there's too much of divided interests. I would not mind it if no attorney was present, but to have an attorney, and being careful as to what I could say, but members know what I'm referring to, I believe has advised the violation of my rights, should not be present in any executive session.
You do have an attorney.
Not for this, I do not.
Mr. Watkins?
I move to refer the motion to a select committee consisting of Angela McCardle, Mark Rutherford, Bill Redpath, Andrew Watkins, Travis Bost, Stephen Nikela, Robert Vincent, Kathy Yanuskavich, Adam Heyman, Ramon Garcia, Andrew Chatterton, Nick Shawn, Jonathan McGee, Matt Johnson, Dustin Anna, Greg Hirsch, Paul Darr, Keith Thompson, Meredith Hayes, Adrian Malagon, Otto Dassing, Paul Bracco, Pat Ford, and Ben Weir. And I would also like to, and that the committee be instructed to meet in executive session, and that Mr. Jonathan Jacobs may be called to join as needed.
So basically, you're making accusations against me and do not want me to be present. That's a really good look.
Mr. Nana?
If I'm understanding the effect of the emotion correct, I can't support that. I mean, we at least have to have the accused in the executive session where we are discussing the accusations. I think we open ourselves up to real issues if we do not. You know, whether or not you want Miss Harlos there and think it might take longer if she is, I think has a right to at least hear what she's being accused of beyond just the interview that was held with her with the IC. So I can't support this one.
All right, I'm gonna ask that we hear from a couple of people before anybody calls the question. Ultimately, that's up to you guys. Mr. Malagon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll remind Mr. Nana and the rest of my LNC colleagues that Ms. Harlos is suing the LNC on the advice of counsel. She should not be in executive session. And I would ask Mr. Watkins that he include Mr. Hall as LNC counsel to help navigate us through these waters. I will remind everyone again that this is the hearing of a report, so we can discuss it and move forward with what would potentially be a trial should the LNC agree. And that's when Ms. Harlos has the right to defend herself in whatever capacity she sees fit. This is again on the advice of counsel. I will remind the entire LNC that Ms. Harlos is suing us. She has retained her own counsel, and that no one, and I will remind everyone on the LNC again that Ms. Harlos was adamantly opposed to Ms. Vest being in any executive session, and that she refused to participate in executive session if Ms. Vest ever joined us during the last term when she was suing the LNC. I yield my time.
Thank you. Madam Secretary?
You know, people are allowed to be inconsistent or change their mind, but this is not similar at all. If you guys were discussing specifically my suit, I still think I'd have a right to be there, but I wouldn't. I just wouldn't go. This is discussing an investigatory report allegedly about me, in which the suit isn't part of the charges. The suit has nothing to do, the suit's nowhere mentioned in it. So that's not relevant. This is just starting to turn into exactly the railroad job that people had suspected, where you're trying to make a committee where the person who can answer to the truth or falsity, and there is falsity in that report, can be there to say so. If this is the type of appearance this LNC wants to make, it can make that appearance. I think they're gonna, this is not the Libertarian Party that most people joined to act this way.
Mr. Nana?
Yes, Miss Harlos kind of got to the point I was going to make. While I cannot speak to what is in the report, I can say that there is no mention of a lawsuit against the LNC by Miss Harlos in the report, so I don't know that she should be excluded from all executive sessions, but I certainly understand the reasoning why somebody might want to, but I cannot support this as the motion was made.
Thank you, Mr. Nana. Mr. Watkins?
Yes, I would amend my motion to also add Mr. Oliver Hall to allow him to join executive session as called upon. And I would also like to point out that whether or not the the suit is mentioned in the report or not, I think that's irrelevant because the member in question is suing us. I mean, I don't think it's relevant to the report. She's suing us, and I don't feel comfortable having her in executive session with us, especially if there are any legal liabilities that may be discussed.
Thank you. Mr. Malagon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To reiterate Mr. Watkins' point and address Mr. Nana's concerns, I will again reiterate that LNC counsel advised against Ms. Harlos being in any executive session. I'm not saying that the report has anything to do with her lawsuit. We have an LNC member who is suing us, and he was very, very clear over my various conversations with him that lasted
Are you
an extensive amount of
revealing
time.
advice
I'm
of
sorry.
counsel in
I'm
public?
sorry, Madam Chair. I'm speaking.
I think this is
So I'm sorry.
confidential
I'm speaking.
information.
I'm sorry.
Point
I'm
of order,
speaking.
Madam Chair.
I'm speaking.
You did not start with a point of order.
I
I'm
am now. I
speaking. I'm
apologize.
speaking.
Point of
Okay,
order.
guys, I need you to
Advice of
settle down.
counsel. Advice of counsel is confidential.
That is not a point of order. That
Yes,
is
it is.
not,
It's an executive session issue, advice of counsel.
that is not a point of order. Your point is not well taken.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Malcolm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, I will reiterate to my colleagues on the LNC that LNC Council has advised against any Ms. Harless joining any executive session or any special sort of privileges that would be entitled to a member who is suing us, as was the advice in the past for a similar circumstance. And I yield the rest of my time.
I had my hand up for something separate for this motion, Madam Chair. I think it was inadvertently lowered.
ahead.
This is an entirely, again, a different situation. I have in the steps to a fair disciplinary process, a right to speak. And as I said, there are items in the report that I was never interviewed on. And in the steps in a fair disciplinary process, it says that the society, I'm sorry, I can't find it. It does say that, oh, here it is. Before any action is taken, fairness demands that the committee or some of its members, and it could have been the IC, but it could be also the entire LNC, or some of, but they didn't get to, the report doesn't contain everything I said. Make a reasonable attempt to meet with the accused for a frank discussion and to hear his side of the story. There are multiple things in there in which my side of the story was in fact not heard, and things in which in that report, there are some things stated that at least one member believes they might have been mistaken on. It's another LNC member that I discussed the report with, not anyone outside the LNC. And there's a right to make that correction as well. This is an absolute abomination. None of this has anything to do with the suit. And in fact, if I'm going to say anything about the suit, it would look even worse. And anything in executive session, I am obligated not to say. I have never broken my NDA. I have never leaked anything. Anything said in executive session will stay in executive session. There might be some things during executive session that I would object to it being there, but it would be the decision of the body. I would also say, since Mr. Malagon has said that this might be the subject of a suit, then the issue or be part of it in
I
some.
object, Madam Chair. I never said that. That is not what I said.
Okay, let me finish. I'll word it differently, since the suggestion was made because there was a suit and that there might be information in there that would be that I
Madam
might
Chair, I
use
also object to that. I
detrimentally.
did not say that,
That's
Madam
the
Chair.
only
Okay,
reason to keep
let's-
me.
I did not say that, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
let me just
Guys.
get to the point without the rationale. I think everyone understands the rationale. Despite policy manuals or whatever there might be, there is in fact a legal hold not to spoliate evidence. And there would need to be a recording of this meeting, and there could be a court order to release it. I'm sorry, that is in fact the case. That goes beyond.
Let me clarify. You're talking about taking executive session comments and taking it to your attorney?
No, I would not do, I would only do that under the terms under the NDA. There, if I wanted to, and I'm not even saying I would want to, there are terms under the NDA in which items that were done in confidentiality can be disclosed to people who have the same level of confidentiality or higher, or a court order, provided that the person notifies the LNC of that, and that the LNC has the opportunity, enough time to make a motion for a protective order. Nobody can just willy-nilly disclose things. There has to be the opportunity for the LNC to seek a protective order. But I am saying, this is not recorded, it is spoliation of potential evidence, particularly if I'm not there, since there wouldn't be any ear witness testimony that there could be a motion for protective order for.
Okay, I think I understand very well now the advice of counsel and why he has advised. We're gonna go to Mr. Watkins, and Mr. Watkins?
I would just like to again point out that this is not a trial and I'm calling the question.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
I have a point of inquiry, and it's very fast. And I'm not saying this because I want to kill it or anything, but did Mr. Watkins' amendment get a second? And then would Mr. Watkins, did he mean to say call all questions? Because then that would take us out of this completely.
I thought somebody seconded it, but I could be mistaken. Who seconded it?
I thought I heard a second. And it's against my best interest to say that, but I thought I heard a second.
I will second now that I've actually heard the secretary's explanation. She's talked me into supporting this motion, so.
Okay. All right. It is, for the record, it did have a second. And Mr. Watkins, when you called out question, what were you calling? Question on what?
My motion.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm asking for a point of personal privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I am putting the LNC then on notice that in the same time frame, well, actually, I'll state the time frame, 7 days before a responsive pleading is due to my complaint. I do intend, upon giving the investigatory report, which I did not intend to before, but since you are excluding me from defending myself, to counsel, which gives the LNC time to file a motion for protective order. I will also say that I intend to, I'm not going to say it's going to be within a week, but at some point, prepare a written response. This is completely outrageous. Nothing.
Okay. Point. I've heard your
It's on
point
the
of
record.
personal
Yeah.
privilege.
Yeah, it's on the record. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any objections to Mr. Watkins calling the question? Okay. Hearing no objections, the question is called.
Madam Chair.
Is this a point of?
It kind of is, because there was a misrepresentation earlier, and I think you would want the record. It's a point of personal privilege to correct a thing. I personally am not suing the LNC. That is not what a derivative action is. I stand. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm not. The LNC is suing the LNC.
It's not a point. It's not a point of personal.
I am not personally suing the LNC.
It's not a point of personal privilege.
Well, it's on the record now. People know I am not personally suing the LNC.
No more points of personal privilege characterizing legal issues. No more. No more. Okay, we're going to go to a vote on Mr. Watkins' motion. Mr. Watkins, can you please restate your motion or summarize it for us, because it's been a little bit of time?
Correct. This would move to appoint a committee of the most, consisting of the LNC minus our secretary, and then we would then hear the report in executive session as that committee, and then that committee could call in Mr. Jonathan Jacobs and Mr. Oliver Hall as needed.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All right, we're going to go ahead and Mr. Nana, we can do points of personal privilege, but we're at.
I have a point of order.
I think it's a point of order. I want us to make sure we do this correctly. I believe it was an original motion and then an amendment submitted. So that's why I asked if he was calling all questions.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a different point of order.
Okay, well, Mr. Watkins, can we clarify that this is technically an amendment?
Yes, I suppose so.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
My point of order is that since this is a matter that has not yet come before the assembly, this is a main motion, for which there has been no notice given that you cannot do this meeting, because of it's a special meeting and there is insufficient notice.
No notice given for what?
For appointing a subcommittee to hear it. The notice was given for the LNC to hear it. I'm also going to object on the record that because of past representation of me in Colorado, Mr. Jacobs is hopelessly conflicted out. That is something, he will need to, think about himself, but that could be a further issue. But this is an original main motion at this point. And there was no notice given for it.
Your point of order is not well taken. It is a subsidiary motion, clearly. He said it was an amendment. It is related to the main motion. And Mr. Jacobs is not conflicted out. He has been retained to provide parliamentary services in a limited scope.
Madam Chair, point of order. The question has been called.
Thank you. All right, we're going to jump to a vote on Mr. Watkins' amendment.
Three, four, five.
Madam Secretary, do you want me to do the vote?
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry. Is the, so you're, okay, I'm going to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay.
Because things are really, and I might withdraw my appeal if during debate, if there's a second of appeal of the ruling of the chair, the parliamentary situation gets straightened out, because I am super confused as to where we're at.
Okay, we're on Mr. Watkins' amendment.
What is the amendment and what is it amending?
Mr. McGee, what was your main motion?
To hear the investigatory committee report with recommendations of charges.
Okay. Mr. Watkins amended that to make it so that a committee of the most and Oliver Hall and Jonathan Jacobs would go into executive session to hear the reported charges.
I'm not so sure. Okay, I'm appealing the ruling of the chair. If there's a second, I'll explain why now that I know what the amendments are.
I don't hear a second. I'm going to say it dies for lack of second.
So the motion is the committee excluding everybody but the accused.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The most anti-libertarian motion I've ever heard in my life. Okay.
Madam Chair, could we not have
Ms.
editorializing
Boss?
during votes?
Okay, guys.
Mr. Boss?
Guys, please. We just need to get through this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Dar? Mr. Dassing?
Pass.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Heyman,
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
I will vote no. Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Nana,
No.
Mr. Nikela,
Abstain.
Mr. Redpath,
No.
Mr. Rutherford,
No.
Mr. Benson,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Madam Chair, the vote is 9-4-2.
Okay, I
Point of
believe it.
order, Madam Chair, Mr. Dassing didn't vote, he passed.
Oh, you're right. Hold on. We had
Oh, I'm
a third.
sorry.
Mr.
vote
Jackson.
yes.
Okay. Okay, so 10-4-2, chair's not voting. The motion passes. The amendment passes. All right, we're gonna go to a vote on the main motion now to hear the Mr. McGee, sorry. Back, what's our main motion now as adopted?
Well, it would be for everyone but the accused to hear accusations against the accused, I think is basically what it is. But again, I will.
Objection, Madam Chair, that is not how we
Okay.
should characterize the motion.
Please,
Alright.
Chair, please word it the way you'd wish for the record.
That's why I asked Mr. McGee.
Okay, yeah, Mr. McGee then.
Mr. McGee.
All right. So as amended, it would be to hear the investigatory committee report with recommendations of charges in the committee of the most as characterized by Mr. Watkins.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna ask, and I already know the answer, but that's okay, because I'll still ask. Any objections?
Well, I know I'm going to object.
Yes. That's
quite,
okay.
Quite obviously.
Yeah. Okay.
I once again request that the meeting, which obviously you guys are going to do, be recorded and kept in possession of counsel of Mr. Hall or whoever else the chair chooses. And I'll go in the waiting room during, well, somebody will have to handle, I guess you put everybody in the waiting room or however it might be handled. But I'm requesting that the evidence be preserved.
Any further discussion before we go to a vote? Okay, do we need to do a roll call vote on this?
Well, so
Madam
far,
Chair, can you-
I'm a no. I don't know if there's other no's.
Okay, we're gonna do a voice vote. All in favor of going into executive session per Mr. McGee's motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
No. No.
Is that 4 no's? Our secretary, Mr. Dar and Mr. Redpath?
And Mr. Rutherford.
I
And
also
Mr.
voted
And
no.
Mr. No.
5 no's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The motion passes by a voice vote. All right, we are going to go into executive session. It's gonna take us a little bit of time to get in there, but we will.